We are live. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the third edition, I suppose, of Security Talk with myself, Brian, and Deon. And thank you for joining us on this Wednesday night. And this time we actually came with notes and structure, and we're going to allow Deon to actually a chance to talk because we didn't really give him a gap last time. And I actually got shat-on by some of the audience after the fact. They're like, we're very interested to hear what Deon has to say. Why don't you guys give Deon a chance to speak? I was like, I'm terribly sorry. We will not be making that mistake again. We will give Deon more airtime. So that's the only feedback I got. No one submitted any questions. So hopefully they will submit some questions for the next one.
Okay, so no pressure at all, eh? Fuck.
No pressure at all. But on that bombshell, I'll let Brian start the discussion because he actually drew up some notes and some good questions. And then I'm going to let Deon.
I like how you said it was notes and questions and all that sort of shit. I just put out some thoughts, and you were the one who told me to shut up. It was Deon's turn to talk.
Well, so do you want to kick off then?
You're sending me mixed messages here. Right. So I did share them on Paratus, and maybe what I'll do is I'll put out, or I'll regurgitate one of the points here and ask Deon to respond to it. Now, to be fair, and for all the sorts of transparent and good reasons, I have actually shared this with Deon earlier. So, again, he and I have fairly congruent thoughts on security in the general sense, because we're both highly intelligent and common sense type people. So that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Don't look surprised, Deon. Don't let me down now. But right, let me get it all started. So the first point I made was kind of a flow out from the conversation we had last week. Is counteracting the perception of security providers in South Africa being the sort of archetypical grade E guard who needs to be taught how to brush his teeth. And we established that wasn't a joke, right? So how do we expand upon it? And the first point I made is that the industry needs to collectivize, and one of the things that they need to do to sort of change the mind shift is introduce a professional curriculum where someone can go through a development process, right, that takes them from grade E all the way up to a master's level sort of curriculum, and that they not be reliant solely on importing skills from the military or the police or any one of those somewhat nebulously, occasionally related skills or disciplines that populate the security industry. And Deon, I wonder if you had any chance to think on that aspect of that.
Yeah, Brian, I fully agree with you. I think we've got. Is my sound fine? Because
yes, it's fine.
Yeah, there's a bit of feedback, but it's cool. When you're not talking, you can go on mute. It'll go away. So carry on. We can hear you loud and clear. Voice is good.
All right. Okay, good. I think what's currently in the security industry is either one of two things. The first being ex-military or ex-police, and the second being what is given as the unit standards. Now, please forgive me for saying this, but I don't know whoever wrote those unit standards. I don't know who they are, please. I don't know who these people are, but shit. It's as if they were never in the security, or maybe it's outdated or something. Okay, let's put it mildly and say it's outdated, because what's supposed to happen today and what's maybe supposed to have happened 15 or 20 years ago is totally two things.
Yep.
So I fully agree with you there. I think the issue currently is, so the guys that come from the military or police background tend to want to bring in too much of the old marching and saluting and parades and flashes and uniforms and shit, which to me, I understand why they do it, but it actually has no actual meaning on the practical side of it. All right. And then the other side of it, I mean, if you have to teach people how to tie a shoe or how to fucking tuck in his shirt, that should show you the skewness of this industry. And what's even worse is now the public relies on that level of person to safeguard him and her in their houses, and they've got a massively false sense of security, because if I have to rely on a guy who can't tie his own shoes, then how in heaven's name is he gonna fucking defend my life should it come to that? So I think that's, for me, that's where the gap is. So talking about a curriculum, I think that's one of the better starting points. That's one of the best starting points. And what should be in that curriculum? Now, to find out what should be in that curriculum is quite easy. We just need to go and have a look at what's happening in the industry, or what's happening in South Africa. I've had guys coming from the CIT backgrounds to be on my farm safety teams, and sorry, but they don't cut it, because they never got the correct training. And I'm talking about basic firearm training. I'm not even talking about advanced. I'm not talking team tactics or nothing. I'm talking basic firearm training. So if that is the type of person that is allowed to safeguard our cash, and then to safeguard our properties and our vehicles and shit, then we've got a big problem in this country. So I fully agree with you there. There's this gap, and I think that gap needs to be addressed.
So on that, sorry, Gideon, did you have any questions? Because you just sitting there.
I've got two things I can add to Deon. I'm just going to Deon, I'm not muting you because I don't love you. I'm just to make the feedback go away. You can unmute yourself at any time. To just explain to the audience how outdated the curriculum is with two examples that are quite pertinent. And I hope I didn't lock my wife out. The first is the study material, as someone that's gone through it, still refers to the Pretoria Witwatersrandvereniging, the PWV, which was replaced by Gauteng province when I was still at primary school. So that's how outdated the text is. It also refers to a part of the Criminal Procedures Act that allowed a police officer or a peace officer to actually shoot and kill somebody who they cannot successfully arrest and is running away. And that law, or that part of the Criminal Procedures Act, was amended for the first time, I think, in 1998. And whatever remained of that section was then again amended, I think, by 2009 or 2012 for the final time. So at best, this is study material that refers to, also, it doesn't refer to the Firearms Control Act of 2000 at all. It only refers to the Old Arms and Ammunition Act 75 and 1969. So it is extensively outdated, but that is a training material that still exists and is out there. With regards to what Deon said about, former military and former police, he touches on an incredibly valid point, because there are two issues. One was a guy in Paratus who commented and said the guys in the suits with the degrees look down on the people with the military experience. And he has a point to the extent that a lot of the degreed managers don't actually understand what security is. They don't understand how security works. They don't understand how security integrates with the business function. Not all of them, some. So you can go and find some bad examples of management and of owners of companies that don't understand the purpose of security. But by the same token, I've heard horror stories from really good security operators and people who know what they're doing that have dealt with former SADF and SAPS personnel that have made it into managerial positions, who are even worse, who think that they know everything, cannot be taught anything, live 20 years in the past, and are inflexible in their approach to how to apply security solutions to a changing world and a changing environment and to a changing threat profile. So there's a lot to unpack, and curriculum being one. So Bryan, I think you have a lot to add there.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think there is a security management specific degree course in South Africa today. I mean, there's a risk management, but that's, especially when we look at enterprise risk management, that's not specifically a security function. It's a skill set within security management, but it's not security management. I think the security management qualifications that were there have now been removed from the various institutions that offered them. And there's very little, certainly in terms of the policing degrees that they offer, or diplomas, not degrees, sorry, that have any bearing on security or management for that matter, but effective management. But all of that aside, I think the scope is open for an industry collective to go and put that forward and to establish that pathway. And once, again, I don't want to allude to the position that everything is academic and everything is qualifications based. But once that qualification track exists, then professionalism can develop. And, again, to be fair, when you're chatting with someone who's going to protect your multi-million-dollar farm asset or farming business, right, and all the assets that go into that, in this incredibly complex and dynamic environment, you want to know that you're speaking to somebody with knowledge in that area, okay? And that's one of the ways of certainly providing a standardized reference point for knowledge, and I guess that's what it is. And I would certainly love to see that. I think it would go a long way in taking security provision up a notch. Right. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Deon.
Thank you. I think I've changed some settings, so I might sound a bit better now, or less feedback or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I fully agree with you, Brian. I still think I think there's that gap in general, but I also think that if you look at security management, the grade A's and the grade let's say the grade A's and let's call them the formal qualifications. You do a B degree or whatever in security management or risk management, whatever. I think those are more or less on par, because it's a different viewpoint in security. But my issue comes in from management downwards. So yes, as the security company owner, I obviously need to be able to manage the company. But I mean, that's business management. That's aside from anything else. And I need to adhere to the procedures and the legalities of that. The issue still comes in where we need to, the standard, the entry level standard for me in the security industry is too low. Something needs to be done there. You need to pass more tests, or there must be much more emphasis placed on how to become a security officer in South Africa. But I think we've become complacent because it's a security guard. It's just the guy standing with his torch there at the gate. And suddenly we can now pay him bottom dollar, and we're sitting with, paying peanuts, etc., etc. I'm not allowed to finish the sentence, but
no. But from that point of view, then the SIA, that the Security Industry Authority in the UK, and I'm being super specific to setting a standard of entry, might actually have a little bit of validity to offer, certainly in terms of a reference point. I don't think it translates to the South African situation. I don't by any means think it's a perfect system, but certainly something like that, potentially as part of such a curriculum, I think would be a very good start. And okay, I mean, you can speak with more authority about how CIRA works, but I don't see it working.
So can I just interject? CIRA doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's the fundamental problem. Is it's like the CAA. So it's a regulatory authority that's fully state captured, and that may or may not be captured by the actual big players in the industry as well. So I suspect there might be a fair amount of regulatory capture, and their interest is not in upholding or raising standards. Their interest is purely on doing big displays where they shut down non-compliance by arresting literally car guards that aren't registered with them. Some Congolese foreigners with a little reflector jacket that's trying to make money in a parking lot. Those people will get arrested, and some other identified objects. But they have not shut down any fly-by-night operations. They have not really acted against security service providers that are connected with gangsters and organized crime and this sort of stuff. It's like the Health Professionals Council of SA, like the CAA, like ICASA, like any other thing that regulates an industry in this country. It's really just a political tool to, I don't know, to be used for political reasons. And yeah, sorry, I actually went off on tangents there.
No, but I think I think that's the core of the problem. If the regulatory industry is not, or the body is not doing what it should be doing, then how can you even expect the rest of the industry to follow suit? Then the rest of the industry just becomes a big joke, which it has become. I mean, driving escort in soft-skinned vehicles. What the hell are these people thinking? What are these people thinking? So they're charging the client for service, and they don't provide something for their own staff. It's just fucking mind-blowing. I can't fathom that.
There's something I actually wanted to bring up on that, and just hello to everybody in the comments before Marie. Hello, Paisley, Stephen, Matt, Rebellious Ruth, John, Martin, Clark, Amy, Laurie. Laurie's asking some good questions. We'll get to them. The Brew, good evening.
Hi, Amy.
So a couple of years ago, I think 2 or 3, there was a vehicle, I think it was transporting gold. It was a Fortuner, armor-plated to a degree, with 2 guys inside, no escort vehicle, they were it. And they got hit on the R21 at, was it the Barbara Road off-ramp, I think, by a gang of 10 guys. The end result is the ever-loving shit was shot out of these guys. The vehicle ended up disabled next to the road, riddled with bullet holes. Apparently the one guy was actually shot in the cabin, like the bullets did penetrate the armor plating. They bailed out the car, and then they got shot. Obviously, as they exited the vehicle, they got shot. I think the thing that not saved the day, because the one guy died. I don't know if the other one made it. What saved the day was that I think the police responded, got engaged in a shootout with these guys. They got chased off the scene, and the cargo wasn't taken. But the 2 response officers were shot to pieces. Well, not responsive. They're not responsive. They're not escort. I don't know what you could call them. But the 2 guys that had the misfortune of being stuck by themselves in the vehicle transporting, I don't know how many millions of rands worth of gold, and alone on a freeway, and they got hit hard by, and that's, as you say, that's madness. There is no way in hell. I don't know how good certain companies' operational security is, but if you are moving a shipment that's really very valuable, what are the odds of information of some sort not being leaked? I mean, you need to have super tight control over every aspect for that to be the case, and I just don't think of that as South African companies aren't very good with information security. Brian can probably elaborate more on that than I'm, but from what I've seen, most of them are awful.
So yeah, and again, sorry, Deon, I don't know if you wanted to jump in ahead of me on that one, but I think this is somewhat close to where Deon was coming with as well. If you can show that your profession has standards, right? Self-created standards, more so than the compliance measures by Zero, because someone made a comment about them being a necessary evil. I disagree vehemently that they're necessary. I agree completely that they're probably evil because they're government. But if you come back to this, if you can show from the perspective of your industry, say, hey, listen, we have these levels of qualifications, and more so than a grade E through A, okay? Because grade E through A or A certainly within the E and D and all of that are of such low standards that they might not even be standards, because what's the point?
But isn't that what the Yanks have, Bri? I mean, they don't have a regulatory authority. They've got, for example, ASIS, which is what the American Society of Industrial Security, and those are all professional organizations that have standards.
That's partly, my point, and they are also legitimate. In fact, various tertiary educational institutions offer college degrees, associate degrees, full degrees, and some up to master's level degrees in security management, in operational risk management, in emergency management, in whatever subdiscipline, almost whatever subdiscipline of security you can choose. And that is my point, right? If you can say, hey, if I'm going to be involved in doing these types of tasks requiring this level of knowledge, understanding, and risk, then these are the minimum qualification levels that I can then use for those tasks. And you then set to your clients the minimum qualification levels that you as an industry are prepared to put onto that task. Not a regulatory body enforcing, oh, well, grade E's can only do this, but saying, okay, listen, my high risk asset value movement team is going to have this array of skill sets. It's always going to have a medical qualification on every single move. It's going to have an operational support structure, which includes people trained in information security management who will set standards. These are our policies. These are our education standards of the people, X, Y, and Z. But once you can, sort of illustrate the standards and skill levels that can be obtained, and then you put your industry operational standards next to that, then you can start basically dictating to your client partner, right, what the skill levels are that are needed. Ultimately, and again, this is my opinion, I'll get off this soapbox just now, lest I talk too much, but ultimately that's one of the reasons why the South African industry is being forced to accept the lowest, sort of payment for their skills, because they can't effectively go to a client and say, hey, dude, I'm sorry, I have a master's level chap running my high value assets team. I've got a legit MBA, right? I've got these three guys with, X, Y, and Z. I meet all of these requirements. I'm sorry, I don't accept 12,000 Rand per person per month because I don't pay them 2,000 Rand per person per month. This is what this service costs, right? Here's your upside. This is what you'll save. These are risks you have to mitigate. This is the difference between your inherent and this is where your residual is. These are your values that you will extract from this. But this is what you're going to pay because this is the skill set that I have. And again, I'm sorry, I'm almost finished. This is not something that's impossible. It's being achieved. If you go to do sort of high risk security in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, or some of the other conflict zones, which have probably they have in many respects a lower risk profile than South Africa. Certainly in some of the movement industries, is they will say, hey, we bring this level of person with this level of qualification. These are the industry courses, etc. that done. You're going to pay for them, or you don't get the security. And if you don't get the security, remember, what is the purpose of security? Enable business. You can't conduct your business. So at some point, the professionalism will dictate or provide a more what's the word? A more viable argument to dictate cost. Sorry. Okay, Deon, back to you.
What you're saying is, and I fully agree with that. I consulted with the marketing guru about 20 years ago. I can't remember. I know I don't look that old. I know, but yes, sadly it is like that. In any case, this guy said to me, you need to set the buying criteria. And he taught me about the buying criteria. And the buying criteria, just quickly explained, is I've got a carpet cleaning business. Now you phone me and you ask me, how much do I quote to clean a carpet? And then I'm going to answer you in the following fashion. I'm going to say to you, before I tell you how much I quote, are you aware that I'm registered with the ABC Carpet Authority? and that all my people are on the carpet standard of the world, and they have all completed the carpet cleaning course as set out by the carpet industrial blah 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 blah. And are you further aware that we also only use the following chemicals in our processes, which is A, B, C, D, E? Once I've told you what we can do, then I give you my price. Now, in that fashion, my price will most probably be more expensive than my competitor. But the moment the client then phones the competitor, he's not going to ask for a price. He's going to ask him, are you guys registered here? And have they done this course? And, are you using these chemicals? So I've now set the buying criteria. So we all know that the buying criteria is not going to come from CIRA or the government or whoever is responsible for that. So it's going to have to come from the industry themselves. There's a well-known South African martial arts body whom I don't belong to because they've appointed one of the parents as the fucking technical director. Okay. Now, the moment a parent has to teach me the 7th Dan kata, then I start running for the hills. And it's the same scenario. It's as if in South Africa, everything has become this fucking joke. And if we in the industry don't have pride in what we do, if we don't pride ourselves in what we do, and we don't start setting the buying criteria, then it's not going to come from anywhere. And that is the best way to out the guys who are fucking around in the industry. If you go to a town, shit, can I name the town? I don't want to expose people there. But there was a town, there's a little town, oh ye little town of little faith. There's a little town in South Africa. At one stage, they asked me to form a security company there, which I didn't want to do. But at that stage, they had 13 security companies in that little town. Okay, 13 different companies in that town. Now, I mean, fuck, the town is not big enough for 4, let alone 13. And that's the issue. So what's the thing that if the moment I lose my job, what's the quickest thing to do? Slap on 2 stickers on my card, and now I'm a security company. Now I get some 2 or 3 guys, I buy them a uniform, and then best of all, I subtract that from their salary. And now I've got guards. And now I start quoting customers. And that's where we start losing, because I'm quoting at X amount, and then these clowns come in and they obviously undercut my quote because they know nothing about the industry. But we need to teach the customers out there that security is a life or death business. It's if you want to pay for me. So that's when we do farm safety. I make my price, and if you don't want to pay for it, then I feel nothing for you. I don't give a shit. I will put my feet in my swimming pool and fucking look at the sunset, because it's not me being killed. It's not my stock being stolen. It's not my problem. But if I put men out there, I'm going to put men out on your farm that have been trained, that have got expertise, that's most probably made some kind of military, have some kind of military background in one of the biggest armies in the world, or 2 or 3 of those. And if you're not willing to pay for that, then I don't care. And in many instances, I've had customers saying to me, you are too expensive, and then they go with the local security company, and I know for sure that the local security company cannot solve the issue. And 2 years down the line, they'll be back with me and say, but please, can you sort this out? Can you sort this out? And then obviously my price has just increased. And I just fucking take a hard line on that. And we need to do that as an industry. We need to stand by, what am I selling? Am I looking at after my people? For me, it's so important that my teams get extra training, and that they train and train and train, because if we go out there, this is what we have. We don't have backup and shit. And I want to see that in the industry. So it should come from the industry itself. It should come from the companies. Everybody who's got pride in his or her own company should do this. They should start setting the buying criteria, and they should start just saying, this is what we're going to charge, what we're going to do.
So on that note, I would like to carry on exactly down the road that the path that Deon's put us on. Before we do that, if you want to send us some questions for next week's show, we're going to have a special guest soon, not next week, but hopefully the week after, which we'll tell you about when we get him confirmed. A very, very, very illustrious person. But send questions, queries, comments, suggestions to this address Also, if you like what you do and you'd like to pay for internet hosting and you've got a snap scan, Brian's going to disappear. Just scan your screen with your phone, give us like R5. We'll split it amongst the three of us and give the internet service provider some money too while we're at it, so we can carry on doing this stuff. But anyway, hello, Brian, you're back. But on what you just, you can also send us super chats and whatever you call the things on YouTube for the handful of you that are on there. But pertaining to this, so we've just signed up with a armed response company. Now, armed response is something I see as a layer. These are not the people I expect to come save my ass. So these are the people I expect that if I'm not at home and there is an intrusion through my other passive barriers, that they are the time pressure that'll hopefully dissuade the fucker who has tried breaking in from maybe calling it quits or getting away with as little as possible, because somebody who will respond is on the way. So it's a passive. I see armed response as a passive barrier, not an active one. And a lot of people see it as the cavalry coming to save them on like winged hussars at the Battle of Vienna, right? It's a very dramatic picture of, I've got armed response and they're coming. Did you hear, Jeremy? They're coming with their vans and their guns, and they're going to save us from the bad people. And it's not quite how it works. But I signed up specifically with a smaller company that services the area they're based in. So this is a company that's been around for about 25 years. They haven't overexpanded. They've kind of consolidated their presence in the area they are physically in. And they've got skin in the game. They live there. They're part of the community. The sad part is many of the how should I put it, CPFs, community improvement districts, whatever, signed up with a larger commercial multinational security company. So what happens is these bigger companies come in, they fund the neighborhood watches, they donate a lot of money to it, but with the purpose of getting Neighborhood Watch to drive subscribers to them and say, cool, if you give Klaus Austerlitz's security company, if we can get 90% people subscribed, they can put an additional van that patrols our area and response times can go up. And this is cool. I say to people, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But bear in mind, if you're going to take a passive approach and you don't keep your armed response company accountable for their promises, they're going to lock you in a 2 to 5 year contract, and their service levels are going to decline because what you're actually paying is shit. I mean, 450 Rand a month is fuck all. Okay, for 450 Rand, you're getting a guy in a response vehicle with a bulletproof and a gun. And sure, economies of scale exist. So the more people who sign up, the more sense it makes. But ultimately, when I was working out, if I had an armed response company, what I would be charging people for a very good service where I could respond to anywhere in the neighborhood within 60 seconds, I would be charging people 1,000 Rand a month, which is more than double that, which means I would get very few subscribers, and I would need about, at that rate, 60 to 65% of the neighborhood to sign up in order to put the two vehicles I need 24 hours a day on there with a competent reaction officer in them. So I don't actually know where I was going with this, but the thing is just the race to the bottom with cost exists, and it does have negative implications. And I would rather support the local guy that clearly feels passionate about what he's doing than a multinational conglomerate. Sorry, back to you.
Okay. I will let Deon respond to that one. He's stuck on mute, and he's got some additional insight. I've got something I'll come back with afterwards. But please go.
No, I don't think I can add anything. Gideon, check your WhatsApp. I think all it is exactly what Gideon said. The price war is killing us in the sense that we are dealing with people who don't see the bigger picture and who are out there for the quick buck, and that's unfortunately hitting the industry.
So I have a comment I want to make on this, which is, again, it's a lot of people are going to consider this controversial, but I find something inherently wrong in the relationship between a community police forum and a security company.
Yeah.
And this is one of the key elements that I think underscores a lot of why people look at security companies, certainly the armed response providers, etc., as being not their partner in enablement.
Yeah.
And this is why security companies need to distance themselves from this perception that they have that they are some adjunct to law enforcement, right? That is not their role. Okay, the whole concept, and again, I understand where it comes from, because so many people in the industry come from a former military, former police background, especially in terms of the operational levels of management and things like that. And I get that is a very strong call for them. I know this because that is my background, and I know how difficult it is not to be the police officer, especially when you are faced with the situation, with a criminal situation. But ultimately, that is not why a security company is there. It is not there to go and arrest the criminals of the street or to back the cops up, okay, or to go and clear out the drug den that some of the cops are battling with, and provide them extra manpower and warrant service. Okay, they are there to participate with their clients to enhance their clients' ability to be safe. That is their role, that is their purpose. Okay, now, yes, I do understand that there is some variance when we are talking about large-scale security operations where crime prevention forms a legitimate part of it. Okay, I'm not making that this. That is a very specialized function, etc. But when you're talking about your armed response provider, okay, and I'm seeing it in far too many cases in both big and small companies. And, to the example that you meant, why are they donating money to the CPF? They have got nothing to do with law enforcement, right? They need to stop placing themselves as beholden to SAPs. They don't, and again, I'm sorry, Deon, I'm eating into your time here, but I have seen on so many occasions where security officers will say, well, I need to, get the police's okay to do X, Y, and Z. Bullshit, you don't. You've got nothing to do with the police. You don't report to them. They're not your boss. They're not your client. Stay away from them. Look after your clients. And, I think when the security industry can get over that Napoleonic complex where they suddenly think that they need to bow down to whoever the station commissioner is, then they can start focusing on being security providers. Sorry, Deon.
No. Keeps putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, what Gideon said.
No, I fully agree with that. I just think, without getting too caught up in the whose role is what, because if you start moving towards the CPFs, then it becomes a new fucking nightmare on its own, because every town has got its own CPF, and then the buurtwag and then this one, and there's 17 and nobody shares anything. I think one of the other points that you made is to have a sort of a collaboration in the industry where guys start sharing specifically intel. I mean, that's something that we find on the farms is so lacking, that there's not a national database. I have found in the areas around Pretoria, in 7 different areas, I have found the same vehicle with the same guys in it over a period of 3 months. And the worst part is that not one of the areas were aware that these guys are operating in the other areas. Now, a database would have sorted that out, created the pattern, and then something can be done.
And here's the thing, right? again, when I was in Iraq, we had a very, very successful sort of example of just that, which was the ROCs, right? Now, they used to go ahead and align all of the security companies, all of them competitors. They used to provide them with intel, they used to track their movements, they used to respond or send response or whatever, deconflict, the whole works, doing what any good operations / incel center is meant to do. Okay, and here's where the sort of how that came about was after, you know, some disastrous examples of failing to collaborate and communicate, which resulted in people dying. They actually created an income stream for this, a contract for this. And it was put to the clients collectively within that AO, say, I'm sorry, you are all going to have to pay to this, because otherwise we can't enable your business. We can't provide you with the security that you need. And it was accepted by the client populace, that was just a logical and legitimate thing. And yes, it added to the costs, but you know, it was one of those things that just had to be done. And I think, again, when the security industry can start speaking with that level of authority and telling their clients, okay, not, you know, being dickheads about it, saying, oh, you do this or we won't secure you, okay, but providing a realistic engagement in order to improve the conditions, then that's on a win. But there needs to be structure in order to facilitate that. Because otherwise we're going to get into the whole South African mindset of you have 10 people and 12 churches.
So can I segue somewhat off that, because it's you're actually taking us into the direction I want to go next, which is talking about training itself. And Richard's question comes at exactly the right time. Is there a need for simulated dry fire training in SA? And there most certainly is. I make use of simulated dry fire with the Chiron speed target system and a cert pistol or the G-Sight laser cartridge in my actual handguns on a near daily basis. Only when life gets too busy and I can't actually train do I skip those, but we make use of it at CHS training to get students used to the idea of presenting and firing and sight alignment, sight picture, breathing, trigger control, all the basic fundamentals, and then a little bit more advanced. There's definitely a need for it. And where I'd like to take it next is a certain commentator in inverted commas had a lot to say the past week about Leo Prinsloo and Lloyd's level of proficiency, which irritated me more than it should, because
sorry, can I just make a little bit of correction? He had a lot to say, but very little that was understandable. I was actually impressed you got that much out of it.
Yeah, it was the lack of understanding is extensive, and this is now got nothing to do with dry fire training, because there is a need for that. It has a really amazing place in a training toolbox. It's the way to go. If you can't afford shooting 10,000 rands worth of ammo a week, which most people just frankly don't, go for that. You can do 100 rounds a night before dinner. But what I'd say is that the training in SA is actually not at a bad standard. There's a myth that training in the security industry is bad. Yes, there are big companies that don't spend money. Yes, Brian.
Okay, I want to make a clarification, because the training in South Africa, when it comes to the security standards, is bad, right? Yep. And this is why. When we look at, and this really illustrates my point about the difference between an incentive-based curriculum and a regulatory authority. Currently, the security companies train, and also the firearms training as well, train to the lowest acceptable standard. There is no incentive to go above that, because I tell you what, if I go and train on an excellent course, like Deon's loan operator course, or a course with Ono or Barlow, or I follow his curriculum, or I go and train with Mark Heman or James Smart, or I go and train with TSU in Cape Town, any one of those entities, okay, I can go and get excellent training and they will push me and they will set a standard here. Or I can go and train with, Pilates Bang and just do that. okay, and it carries the equal recognition, it carries equal weight. Training up here with excellent training providers, or some idiot who can't even spell 3 words and thinks and has a God complex. Okay, same thing, and that is the difference. That's because we have a regulatory compliance standards and no incentive for curriculum, no incentive for excellence. If we can make that switch in the mindset of the industry, right? Let's create the incentive to improve, not to scrape by. Does that make sense?
But once again, Brian, I think that should come from within the industry itself. If we're not talking about civilian training now, okay, we're not talking about you being your own first responder. We're talking about security companies. If I own a security company and I put my guards in life-threatening situations daily, then I think the responsibility is on me to make sure that these guys have a fighting chance. But what we do find at a lot of companies is they've got their own internal trainers. Okay, and apologies to anybody who is an internal trainer at a security company, but most of the guys that I've come across over the period of time are not on the standards of the guys you've mentioned here. Okay, myself excluded. Meaning I'm not the good trainer. Please don't fucking misunderstand my message.
And Leo, then, and the other trainers, I know.
Yeah, Leo and those other guys. So what follows is we still sit with that ego issue. So security company ABC thinks they are the bee's knees because they can wear all the tactical kit and the fucking camo uniform, and they've got their own Mr. Trainer, and then we take that trainer onto a basic fucking pistol course and he can't shoot for shit. So how the fuck is that guy training the staff in that company? That's bullshit, okay? And that's where I say that company has got the responsibility, according to me, to ensure that they get the personnel, their staff, in front of the Leos and the Marks and the Jameses and the Arnos and the whatnots out there, okay? Because that will ensure that these guys have a fighting chance. Because I mean, if you don't know fucking trigger discipline or muzzle discipline, we're not even talking fundamentals here. If I don't know that I should keep my fucking finger off the trigger, then there's a problem. There's a massive problem. And I actually tested it over the years. I've done some selection phases in my company with my people. And then guys would come from various industry backgrounds with grade this and grade A's and grade what. And I would do a stupid, simple test. I would take a Glock pistol. Thank you, Glock. Yes, I did take a Glock pistol. I know I took a Glock pistol. Thank you. And I would make sure that it's safe, but I would stick the magazine in. So it's got an empty magazine. Then I would grab this pistol by the barrel and hand it to the guy in front of me with the barrel pointing at me and tell him, take this gun and make it safe. And 99.9% of those people took the gun with the fucking gun pointing at me, putting their fingers on the trigger, and then started racking the thing and going mad. Now that just tells me that these guys don't have the faintest idea about the basics, the fundamentals, and safety. So, I mean, if you work in one of the bigger companies and you are on that standard, then once again, I am shit scared of this company safeguarding my cash and my life and my family's life and my neighbors and so on. And that's the issue. So we need to get the industry itself should wake up and say, you know what? If my people need to take on guys like Leo Prinsloo had, then fuck, they must be trained by Leo Prinsloo. You know, if you know, that's who I need to get in front of my people, or the other guys that we've mentioned. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just saying. And that to me is the core issue there with regards to training.
And I agree with you, but to my mind, it comes back to this. You know, yes, a lot of the internal instructors, etc., are really bad. You know, some of the other big companies are not. I mean, I was on a course with Kelly McCann, 2 instructors from one of the biggest cash movers. Their head instructors were there, and you know, they'd come on their own dime, their own time, and they'd put in you know, the opportunity to train with him. Okay, and they did it because they had the same mindset you did. They don't want to put their lives in the hand of the lowest possible standard. And they wanted to be able to take those skills and teach their people. But that is not the industry norm. And it's not the industry norm because you've set bars which are low, and human nature says, well, I will just go over the lowest bar and not do any effort, right? We have the wrong psychological approach. As an industry,
can I name drop a little bit, but the good type of name dropping. So down here, the guys that I'm aware of that take it extremely seriously and train their guys to an exceptionally high standard. I mean, TSU don't fuck around. They do exceptional work. They really do go above and beyond. Empire Security. I forgot the name of the gent who owns them. Hey?
John Goodman. Brilliant.
John Goodman. Like Empire again, it doesn't fuck around. And there's a cool story about John when he I don't know how true it is. John, if you're watching this, please don't come to my house and kill me if I get this wrong. But when he was in the process of explaining to Canal Walk after they got hit quite a few times, what they're doing, what they need. And they came to him with all sorts of bright ideas in the meeting. And he pushed back from the table. He got up and he said, I'm sorry, but you don't seem to understand security. And he was on his way to leave the room when the CEO and everyone's like, no, don't leave. Tell us what we're doing wrong. And then he's like, okay, but are you going to actually listen to me and take on board, or are you just going to waste my time? And then they started the thing. And I mean, John's been with Canal Walk. Empire's been there for longer than I care to remember. And it's made a huge difference to that mall's security profile. And he had the attitude of, I'm not going to do it cheaper. I'm not going to give you what you think you want. I'm going to tell you what you need. And if you don't want it, then I walk away. I'm not going to compromise my people or my reputation. But I mean, there's a couple more really good companies out there like this.
I mean, sorry, Mike Myers is sharing some names here in the thing. I don't know if he's trying to tag people, but he mentions Johan Boyson. Johan Boyson's a former ex-police officer, incredibly intelligent, great, bright guy. He's doing some consulting with some of the other larger security companies now, as I understand. Again, unfortunately, people like Deon, John Goodman, Johan Boyson, even all of those are exceptional because, well, they're exceptional. They are unfortunately not the norm. Okay, if we had, how many thousands of security officers are there in South Africa right now? It's a massive number. They outnumber the police significantly.
There's more than 1 million, I think. Last time I checked, there were like an extensive number.
It's a huge number, and there are millions, billions of rands spent on the industry. Okay, and if that industry was populated by Deon's, Johan Boyson's, John Goodman's, the people from TSU, etc., they would not be the issue that we're dealing with because they recognize intelligence. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Unfortunately, there's just this easy, sort of standard set. The industry collectively needs to say, I'm sorry, we're not accepting the Syria-foisted bullshit, right? That's not what our people's lives are worth. Syria and, their captured backers can F off. This is our industry standard. We are going to write it, and we are going to, sorry, Deon, again, I'm thinking, but if you look at the really big, like ACES you mentioned, ISACA, all of those, security related, other disciplines security related, that doesn't come from a government. That's an industry collective saying, we set this standard. Not the government. They don't foist it on us. We set it. Right? And if you want our qualification, our certification, you adhere to our standards. End of story. Right? And that's the mindset change that needs to happen. And I'm sorry, I know it's a little bit of a South African thing. We like to say, die staat moet, the state must. Okay?
Ons moet.
Yes.
That's what needs to happen.
And the we in this context is the security industry. The security industry says, needs to say, this is our standard, this is what we're going to have. If you want that, that's the one you accept. And Ciro and the clients, right, you accept that. That's the end of the story. Okay, otherwise no significant change will happen because there is no incentive to change.
Yeah, I fully agree. I fully agree with you, Brian. It has to come from within. It has to come from us. So I know somebody asked if we could name names, but I don't think. I think it's about the principle. Yeah, I don't want to go and point fingers in this. I think the guys who agree with the principle should start banding together and saying what Brian just said. This is the standard that we will adhere to. And that's how we're going to either get the other guys up to standard or else them. That's how it's going to be. Because the customer will then go for the cheaper option, but he's not going to get his problem solved. He's not going to get his solution. And he's going to have to turn to the guys who actually know what they're doing.
And invest, if you invest in your human capital as a security service provider, you're not going to end up with a situation where your response officer gets himself and you into shit at 3 a.m. It's a very simple concept. Yes, some people are not supposed to be in the industry. You need to gatekeep it and keep the unsuitable guys away from becoming response officers because they don't have what it takes to be that. And that's not a personal attack. Reality, unfortunately, isn't a Disney movie where you can be anything you want and you can turn from a caterpillar into a princess butterfly at when the fairy godmother twirls her fucking slippers at you. I don't know where I was going with that, but some people are suited better to certain applications and are entirely unsuited to others. I would make a terrible medical doctor, for example. Like I would not be particularly good at that at all, and I would probably make a terrible lots of other things, and that's fine. That was okay. I didn't kill anybody, so I suppose
you never told anybody to stand by for blast off because the person who does that is a terrible pilot.
But fair enough. But it starts with gatekeeping and development of existing human capital into the correct direction and training. And Deon, I think the next episode we might need to do on training because that's a whole hour discussion on its own.
We will. And then I will bring the man himself in the show.
Yeah, you've heard it here first, folks. So Leo, if you have questions for Leo Prinsloo, the man of the moment, bring it next week. Amy, if you're still watching, firstly, hot flushes away, and could you please make us a thumbnail? Amy's our graphic designer as well, by the way.
Amy,
so thank
Leo
you to Amy.
Keep his shirt on, so don't ask me for any of those pictures.
And FYI, you should absolutely be buying a mug, right? If you're going to listen to the show, might as well have some coffee. And there's this awesome mug you can get. Has this really catchy saying that I'm not allowed to say.
Kom jou.
But you can watch Leo's video. I even heard one that there's a dubstep beat to it. That's kind of cool.
Well, Gerrit, we can indeed. In fact, bring this question next week.
You better email it to.
Email it. Okay, hang on a sec. Yeah, hang on.
Don't
Email it to me. Email your questions, comments, suggestions for next week with Leo to me here. And I'll make sure to put it, collate it nice. And yeah, we'll see. Tonight was a nice structured discussion. Guys, anything you'd like to add?
So whilst people are adding things, I just also want to say a few words of thanks. Mike Myers, thanks very much. Mike runs a really cool app-based response services, amongst many other things. So I appreciate the comment there as well. I just want to go back up through the comments because someone had something that they wanted us to talk about or at least ask, and it's all gone.
Oh, hang on, was it this one? Can't we do a GoFundMe to build a new farm system? Hey, this sounds like a good racket. I'm willing to give anything a try, Richard, at this stage.
Except, that offer's been made to the SAPs before, right? I mean, way back in the days of when Gunsight was still a cool place to be, right? They went and put together a proposal with some very, very, very gifted programmers and process designers to completely revamp the system. And what's his name? What was that idiot's name who used to run the CFR? The stupid one who got fired and then came back.
Jaco Botma. Was it
Yes.
him?
Yes, that idiot. He was the one who just poo-pooed it and said, I'm sorry, anything the private sector can offer us is beneath us. But then again, that's, I'm sorry, you want to wrap things up, but that mindset is exactly the same as saying, oh, well, the state must do. Stop enabling the state to provide a solution that they don't want to do. You need to provide the solution, the counter solution. Okay, so if you say you've got a, and that's
there you go.
So how do you get legislative change made? It's not through the states. If you want legislative change made, you need to speak outside of your echo chamber. You need to go and speak to the multitude of undecided people who are neither vehemently pro nor vehemently con, and you need to get them on board, and then you need to go to the policymakers and get them to change it. That is how you create an alternative to the SEPs. It's not about making an inefficient bunch of people more efficient by giving them toys, and that's the security mindset. A better camera does not give you better security. It just gives you better visuals. Making a better system for a tyrannical organization is just going to make them better tyrants. It's like saying, well, I'm going to make a better gas delivery system and sell it to the German government in 1930, 40. You get where I'm going. Don't do that. Do an alternative.
On that bombshell, Deon, do you have anything that can top that? Because I
wait. Look at that last comment. Just go that last comment. What the fuck? That comment wins the evening. You know what? Who is that guy? I'll send him a mug for free. The
Brew, okay. Email me your address. Deon is sending you a mug. You've just won a mug. Guys, it's been great. Bryan, Deon, thank you for tonight. It was awesome. I look forward to next week. We'll get the hype train going. I'll just put Mike's comment up there for just to, we do read them, guys, and Brian's now halfway hidden. It looks like he's wearing a COVID mask. And thank you, Mike, also for your comments. Thank you for all of your comments, guys. They've been great to interact with. Look forward to seeing you next week. I will be missing in action Whiskey Friday because I've got obligations, but fun for. Hey, yeah, I don't want people to dox me. Have a safe week. See you soon. We'll stay in touch and lekker aand. Bye-bye.
All the best. Thanks, guys.